right, here we go. So 2026 goals for us at Prime to Perform. One of the big ones is to get into doing some more longer form content for you all. So we're going to start doing a bit of a podcast to join everybody else in the world that's doing a podcast. We're going to try do a little bit more YouTube stuff, try and get some more information across through longer form stuff to go into a little bit more detail. So to start off with our first kind of video, we thought why not go into some real detail about some plyometrics. Normally, dancers have never done any kind of true plyometrics before. It's not something that's particularly taught at drama schools. It's not something that I've ever seen like many other coaches talking about, or as well like lots of misunderstandings about what a plyometric actually is, which we'll get into more detail later on. But yes, this video going into detail about plyometrics. I've picked out 4 exercises that I think every performer should start doing. Just to start incorporating some more intensive landings, to start working on that tendon elasticity. So the structure of this video, we're going to go over what actually is a plyometric, what are the importance of them, why should we be using them. Then we're going to go into the 4 exercises. I'll give some demonstration videos, stuff like that, and then we've got a little offer at the end too to go over. So yes, let's start with what actually is a plyometric. So a true plyometric involves both a landing and a take-off sequence, and that landing and take-off is performed in a very, very short time frame, typically under 0.25 seconds. So because of that, not every jump is technically a plyometric. For example, a box jump, so in the gym rather than a box jump like in dance, where we're just jumping onto a box, that isn't actually a true plyometric because we don't step or kind of land and then jump up from it. So if it's a static box jump, you're just going from the floor, jumping up onto the box, that technically isn't a true plyometric. To make it a true plyometric, you could do multiple box jumps in a row where we are landing and taking off, and that landing is typically under 0.25 seconds. That's really where a lot of the benefit will come from. So with plyometrics, it's really the landing where we're focused most on, and that's where the body has to absorb loads and loads and loads of force and then transfer it almost instantly. Plyometrics are absolutely fundamental for dancers and performers because they train the body's ability to produce force quickly. More specifically, they train something called your stretch shortening cycle, and that's the stretch shortening cycle of muscles and tendons. And this stretch shortening cycle is exactly what it sounds like. It's the muscle and tendon rapidly stretching and then immediately shortening to create power. And the shorter, more efficient and more elastic we can make that process, the more springy and reactive the body becomes. This is obviously crucial for dance, especially for things like fast choreography, multiple jumps or leaps in a row, and things like petit allegro, where speed and reactivity almost matter more than like maximal strength. And this is where plyometrics earn their place in a performer's training, and why I think that every performer should be doing it multiple times a week. It's because it's those athletic and dynamic dance movements where we are moving too quickly for maximal strength to be fully expressed. And so we are using that elasticity and relying on that elasticity even more. So plyometrics train the muscle tendon unit to store and release elastic energy more effectively and more efficiently. And a well-trained tendon is typically stiff. And what I mean by stiff is it's not rigid, but it's stiff and it's able to transfer force better. And research shows that plyometric training increases tendon stiffness, particularly in things like the Achilles and the patella tendons. To kind of summarize that, to make it slightly easier to understand, think of it like this. We'll go back to our kind of box jump. Actually, even better, let's take a box jump in dance. If you were to perform a box jump just from standing, so you're just jumping up, going into that kind of side split, coming back down, you're relying there on muscular force. You're really using like your quads, your glutes, your hamstrings, your calves to really power you up, that concentric power to get you up off of the floor. But if you were to add in a little run up, so a couple of steps and then jumping up, or you're repeating multiple box jumps in a row, so let's think like Mamma Mia or something like that, where they're doing multiple box jumps, that's asking your body to kind of reuse energy from the previous landing and then explode up and go into that box jump. And that places much greater demand on that stretch shortening cycle, meaning the tendons have to store and release that elastic energy more efficiently rather than the muscles doing all the work. So the quicker something is, the more tendony it's going to be. So as movements become faster and more continuous, performance depends less on pure muscle strength and more on reactivity and tendon elasticity, which again is what plyometrics are designed to train. They do also improve how well the brain, nervous system, muscles and tendons can communicate, which can lead to faster, more coordinated movement. So those are just a few reasons why plyos are so important. There's a whole bunch of other things such as eccentric strength, improved landing mechanics, kind of reducing the risk of injury, if programmed correctly, of course. There are all other benefits, but that's why, anyway, as a brief overview, why plyos are so important for dancers. So with that being said, let's get into the 4 exercises that we really recommend that performers start with. So if you are completely new to plyos, here are 4 things and 4 different exercises that we really would encourage you to start incorporating and why they are so useful. So the first exercise, the first one is going to be a high to low deep tier plyometric. Now, this is technically not a true plyometric because we are actually spending longer in contact with the ground. It's more than that 0.25 seconds, which means that it's technically not a true plyometric. So we'll kind of put that out there, but we love to use these kind of deep tier plyos because they allow us to get into a really deep range of motion and start to train the joint's ability to absorb force. So if you are completely new to kind of jumping, or if you've been through drama school and you've had a bit of time off and you're not feeling too springy, or you just want to kind of maintain this elasticity, this is a really good starting point because it's slightly less intensive. We're really looking at like opening up our joints, kind of getting some elasticity forming again. So it is lower intensity, great for opening up the body, great for priming the nervous system. This high to low variation is a really nice one because you get that little break in between. It's not like we're doing repeated low tier exercises. Most dancers, most performers would be completely fine to go into repeated low tier stuff, but for the time being, high to low gives you that little bit of respite in between. All you're doing is going from that top range of motion, dropping down into that nice deep lunge, and then bouncing back up. With this, try and be nice and light, nice and springy. We're not trying to be really powerful and jump as high as we can. We're just looking for nice elasticity. That's all we're doing there. Typically, we would suggest doing multiple sets. So maybe you were to do 10 of these on each leg and do that for 3 sets. That'd be a nice thing to kind of stick into your prime and prep section, or more of a warm-up section before the start of your workout. So Pogos are the next exercise, and Pogos are the bread and butter of plyometrics. They're amazing for getting you to understand the kind of biomechanics and what we're trying to achieve when we're doing plyometrics, especially that ground contact time. So we can progress Pogos in a variety of different ways. Kind of bilateral Pogos is the easiest place to start, so literally just jumping up and down on the spot. And we can do these through different tiers as well. So we can do more of a light tier, as seen here, where we're just bouncing up and down. Nice and easy, not too intense. But then we can add more variation. We can do things like crescendo, decrescendo Pogos, where we're making it more intensive, going into more medium tier, ping tier exercises. And then, of course, you can do absolute max effort Pogos as well. With Pogos, the most important thing that we get used to is what we're doing with our feet. So when we do a Pogo, we really want to flex our feet in the air. And the reason for this, and the reason that it looks a little bit different to maybe what you've seen in dance classes before, is that with these plyometrics, with these Pogos, again, we're really wanting to reduce the ground contact time as much as we possibly can. So we really want to reduce the amount of time that we're spending on the ground. So by flexing our feet in the air, what that is going to do is going to allow us to attack the ground as we come down. It means that we can attack the ground with our toes, with the ball of that foot, and jump straight back up. That's going to minimize that ground contact time. It's going to make it really elastic. It's going to make sure that we're training those tendons and ligaments and that stretch shortening cycle. So yeah, with each jump, you can do it with your hands on your hips. You can do it by swinging your arms as well. Make sure if you are swinging your arms, you are swinging them up with every single rep. Really common for people to throw their arms down when they're doing plyometrics. What we want to do is actually throw them up with every rep. It means that the momentum is going with our arms. We're getting that nice spring up into the air. We're not working against what our body is doing. But yeah, make sure we are flexing those feet in the air so that as we come down, we can attack the ground. That's going to train that tendon, that elasticity, and jump straight back up. With pogos, you're going to think about hitting the ball of your foot on the floor before jumping straight back up. The third exercise we're going to look at is this skater to single leg hop. Now this is relatively advanced, as not only are we doing some more lateral movement, but we're moving on to some more single leg variations too. So if you're new to plyos, I would still keep this as more of a light or medium intensity, not too focused on how high we can get or how far we can jump laterally. Again, we really like this variation because it works the mechanics of the foot really nicely. And in the air, we're wanting to, again, flex those feet so that we can reduce that ground contact time. This is going to give us a stiffer joint complex surrounding the ankle, which will increase stability across the rest of the body. Also, flexing the feet in the air as we do this gives that good pre-activation for the lower limb muscles, means that we are preempting that contact with the ground. With this exercise, we're actually going to think about hitting the ground with more of a flatter foot. So think mid-foot, not just landing on your toes. Dancers naturally want to stay on our toes just because a lot of dance is up on demi-point or actually on the toes themselves, and that our weight is quite far forwards. Whereas on these skater to single leg plyos, we do want to hit the ground with more of a flat foot. Again, that's going to allow us to redirect that force really quickly and not just absorb it. So a flatter mid-foot contact gives us a more stable base and lets the calf and Achilles complex and posterior chain to do its work, reducing that ground contact time. Forefoot landings, where we are going with the toe first and then we're putting the heel down, are more useful when the goal is absorbing force. So when we're landing a big jump or something and we want to kind of roll through the feet and then use our muscles to really absorb the force. Here, however, we're looking to stay a little bit stiffer with our tendons and ligaments and be nice and springy and quick. And finally, we have the depth jump. What an amazing exercise. Incredible again for that elasticity, for that transfer of power really quickly. And this one is amazing for increasing the height of leaps. And it's very, very scalable as well. People often see a depth jump and think it's quite scary. But what you can do is just reduce the height of the box. You can do it off a step. You could even do it off a bumper plate or something like that. So it is actually very scalable. We can start really low and we can slowly build that height up. And the importance here is that we want the box to be at a height where we can still have that quick ground contact time. The box is too high if we start to decelerate and we start to really use our muscles to absorb the force, and that ground contact time increases to way more than 0.25 seconds. If you watch a video of yourself doing a depth jump and you see that you're spending a long time, you're really kind of plying, you're really using your knees going into that squat to then jump up, that height of the box is too much, and we're doing too much force absorption. We need to be nice and springy off of the floor. As we said before, as we step off of that box, we do want to flex our feet in the air so that we can hit the ground with more of a flat foot, thinking more of our midfoot kind of hitting the ground and then pushing off our toes, of course. That flatter foot, that midfoot pressure, going to give a stiffer joint complex surrounding your ankles and increase stability across the rest of your body. Again, that flexing of the feet, it gives a good pre-activation as well for those lower limb muscles. So as we step off the box and hit the ground, we're getting loads of eccentric loading, and again, the intention is always to attack the ground and reduce that ground contact time as much as possible to really jump up as quickly as we possibly can. Depth jumps typically are quite intensive. You've got, especially if we start getting stronger and we start doing them higher and higher, that is quite a lot of force going through your body, going through your joints and your muscles. So we do suggest doing these with lower rep ranges. With stuff like Pogos, because they're lighter, more medium tier, unless we're doing more intensive ping tier plyos, you can probably get away with doing 15-20 reps in a set. Stuff like depth jumps, unless you are very well trained, we would suggest maybe starting off with 3 to 5 reps within a set, just because of that intensity, just because of the amount of force that's going through the body there. But there we have it. A few different exercises. We have our high to low deep tier lunge, a great starter exercise to really start opening up more range of motion, to get a little bit of elasticity. Then we have our Pogos, absolute bread and butter of plyometrics, really good for teaching you the mechanics of attacking the ground and leaving the ground nice and quickly. Then we have some more lateral and single leg movement with that skated to single leg pogo. Again, awesome for teaching us to really attack the ground with more of that mid-foot rather than rolling through the floor, which is going to slow down that ground contact time. And then finally some depth jumps for some real elasticity, some real height, great for leaps and jumps in dance. We really hope that that is useful for you. We also do have a month of free plyometric training that you can download. All you need to do is send us a message on Instagram or TikTok with the word PLYO in capital letters, and we will send that across to you. Really, really good. Again, if you're completely new to plyometrics, you want to start including them in your workouts to make you nice and springy, nice and elastic, build the height on your leaps, and just make movements and dynamic movements, especially within dance, easier, then that's a great download to go and get your hands on. But there we go. That is our first video on plyometrics.